Okay. Yeah, you know how many Boggs you see with.
Okay, guys, let's get started. We get Blind Tom over here to hunt. Experience Blind Tom. He recognizes.
I'm here.
Welcome to everybody. We appreciate your flexibility. We normally meet on the third Monday, but there was something happening last Monday. What was it again? Oh yeah, the Astros were playing the Red Sox last Monday. So thanks for being flexible and being with us. Let me start with a little bit of a sad note. As many of you know, one of our long-term members passed away 2 weeks ago, Joe Russell. Joe was age 90. She was very, very active in baseball in the Houston area. She was married to the general manager and president of the Houston Buffs, the minor league team when they were here. She's also very active in the Baseball Association baseball dinner. That was the most successful baseball dinner in the country. She had over 1,000 people attend the meeting. And the Astros participated, but Joe and her group was one that put it on. It was first class. And Joe was very loyal and here all the time, as long as she was able. And then when she had some problems, Mike McCroskey was kind enough to bring her over here to the meeting. And she was very active until she got a little sicker. And her basic comment was every time she was here that, hey guys, you know, Larry Dierker should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
She made that comment over and over again. It's so embarrassing sometimes, but we're gonna miss Joe, and a number of the people here did attend her funeral. I guess the big news around here, of course, is what's happened in the last 3 weeks. What a tremendous playoff season that we had and continue to have. You know, the Houston Ball Club has been in the postgame last 5 years. Been in the World Series last 2 out of the last 5 years. It's remarkable baseball in our area. I had the thrill of attending Game 6 last Friday with my son. And I've been to World Series games, but that was the most exciting game I've ever been to. The fans were really into it. In fact, it started out very cool. Mattress Mac, who's everybody knows is the furniture salesman here in town, invited some nuns who were big time Astro fans to come to the game, and he picked out one of the nuns, to throw out the first pitch. I'm not going to say she was small, but she was pretty diminutive. She wasn't a very big girl, and she was proud as she could be. So she went out to the mound to throw out the first pitch, and she got to the mound and said, well, maybe it's a little far for me. So she started walking in a little bit, and everybody was cheering for her, of course. And she takes the baseball and she throws a strike to orbit. Didn't bounce it, not to the right, not to the left, but throws a strike to orbit. Then after she's done that, she does something. She points up to heaven and she goes, it's our time. We kind of knew something good was going to happen after that. But the city is celebrating. We're very happy to have the home field advantage for the first 2 games, and it goes 7. We have the home field for the last 2. And I understand from the folks in Las Vegas that the Astros are now favored to win and to beat the Braves. And we all support that 1,000%. So that was really terrific.
Did you hear in Los Angeles that they accused the Braves of cheating? Otherwise, they'd been in the World Series.
Well, I'm going to say something. In fact, the media has been rather hard on our team.
Yeah.
In fact, Mark Warnick is one of our members, has written a number of letters and emails to various media types saying, come on, guys, lighten up a little bit. And of course, he got no response back from the media, but he feels like they've been unfair to our players. And only, 5 players left to run the 2017 team.
Well, did you see the popular meme that's going around today? Got the entire United States pictured blue, Houston orange. They said, those rooting for the Braves and those rooting for the Astros.
I guess you're right. On Saturday, we have a vintage baseball team who had a surprise. We've had for 10 years, Mike. And you know, we delight in playing in exhibitions. And we were asked to participate in the Texan Ranch Day out of the George Ranch. And we've done that most every year.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Well, Joe's got a bunch of great pictures that his wife took. But anyway, we went out there, we played a 6-inning game because we had a time limit.
Yeah.
And one of the great things that happened was that the Houston Babies were playing the Barker Red Sox. And they had Red Sox across their uniforms, okay? Well, we played 6 innings, so in the bottom of the 5th, the Houston Babies scored 7 runs to win the ball game. Can you think of another team that scored 7 runs in the later innings against the Red Sox?
Never happened.
Never had a ton of years. We thought that was really terrific, really terrific. Incidentally, we did have a contest that about everybody in this room entered called the Astros Win Contest. And Joe, I don't know if you got a slide of it or not.
No, it's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook. Anyway, we had a tie. And we have 2 gentlemen who predicted the correct number of wins. They are Greg Moore and John Hudak. Or Mark Hudak, excuse me, Mark Hudak. John Hudak's pitched for the Astros. The range went from 102 wins predicted by Tom Clemens to 78 predicted by Greg Lucas. Josh, he wasn't Jason.
Well, they did win 78.
So we had a lot of fun. We had 35 people enter the contest as we had every year. And it's interesting, like it happened. Oh, it's like going back to the Babies real quick. One thing I forgot to say, I apologize for this, but one of our members sang the national anthem for the crowd, the baseball team, and for all the cranks who were there. And we had a pretty good sized number of cranks or fans who came to the games. We also had a musical group behind us called the Tanners, and they played when we were finished. And we noticed they all stood up and they saluted and they sang along with it. Like, he did a very nice job singing. Then he turned into the umpire and it was a blind Tom. We won't talk about that. But it was a fun day. Wish more of you had been out there. Don't play as often as we used to. And candidly, we get older. And older, kind of like our group here.
Except for Travis.
And I said, well, he didn't play for us, though. But we did. Travis came out of the stands. One of our players' wives came out of the stands. So we made sure we had 9 people on the field at all times. But it was a fun day. Today, our agenda is going to be, we're going to have a guest speaker from Baltimore. Peter Coolbaugh will speak. Peter's on the screen up here. He'll speak in a few minutes. And then Chris Chestnut has a research presentation he's going to make about winning percentages by innings. Kind of fascinating the way it looks. And then I'm going to talk about a brand new SABR initiative that was announced Friday that I think has a lot of merit. I think this chapter wants to participate. So unless there are any questions,
Well, Red has the hardest trivia we're ever going to get. Bragging about it already.
Okay, well, of course we have Trev. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And Fred has some books too. You know, we had a book exchange last meeting, and Fred has been kind enough to bring some more books to the back of the room.
What's the picture and decal for Heller, Fred, they put it on the letter now.
And I must acknowledge we have a long-time associate of this chapter, a good friend of this chapter who was here tonight, Mike McCroskey. Mike, welcome. Mike worked for the Astros for a long time, and he heads up the Hall of Fame selection committee. for the ball club. And some of us are lucky enough to be on that team with him.
Is he gonna authenticate your clipboard and pencil tonight so we can sell them at the team store?
We might get some money for him tomorrow the next day. Okay, Peter and I've been talking for some time. Peter is the vice president of the SABR chapter in Baltimore, very, very active in their chapter, done a lot of great things. He's also the head chairman or vice volunteer at the Babe Ruth Museum in Baltimore, which is a very impressive museum, which we all hope to see in Baltimore this summer. And he can talk to us about that, and then he's going to fill us in on what is going to happen, what proposed for the annual convention in Baltimore. So Peter, welcome and take it away.
All right, good evening, guys. I'm on the East Coast. I'm an hour ahead of you. I want to apologize if I start coughing or whatnot. I'm still a little under the weather, so please excuse any behavior. Wearing my Babe Ruth birthplace hat. They are not my primary employer, but I've been affiliated with them, actually starting as a volunteer and then getting onto paid staff. I've been with them over about 14 and a half years now. I am the volunteer coordinator, and for those of you who've never been to Baltimore, the Babe Ruth birthplace is actually the house the Bambino was born in. It's about 2.5 blocks from Camden Yards. Those of you who may have read Jane Levy's book, The Big Fella, probably discusses a lot of his childhood and everything in the downtown before he was sent to the reform school. But the house he was actually born in belonged to his maternal grandparents, the Schomburger family. When his mom was pregnant and when she went into labor, she just happened to be at her parents' home, and the midwife was called, and the babe was delivered upstairs on February 6th, 1895. Don't want to go into the history of his life and whatnot. It's well documented, and everything he did as a child, and then through St. Mary's, and then on to the baseball career. But the museum opened in was actually way back in the 1960s. The area downtown near the ballpark was, from what I understand, pretty much a slum. And the house was actually set to be demolished. And the city saved it. Someone took note of the historical significance of the building, which contains 4 row homes. And the foundation was started, and renovations and all that kind of stuff took several years. And the original birthplace, the actual house he was born in, opened in 1974. Over the next decade, thanks to contributions from the Orioles and other institutions and stuff, the birthplace was able to expand into the neighboring 3 houses. So the museum actually takes up the original house, which was remodeled back to the period when he was born, and of course, a lot of the exhibits in the neighboring homes. It's open year round. Obviously, COVID we took a hit like everybody else, and basically it's been in operation since 1974. The Babe Ruth Birthplace Foundation, which operates the museum, is also the archives for the Orioles. And we used to have a second museum location that was open for, I guess, a little over a decade, that was right next to Camden Yards. That was called Sports Legends Museum. That was all other sports in Maryland. Orioles, minor league baseball, all the colleges, the Negro leagues, pro football, anything, horse racing. And that existed through 2015, and then with recessions and riots and rising rents, we had to discontinue it because it was just not financially feasible. So a lot of that stuff we still have, but a lot of it is currently in storage while we look for a new location. So the birthplace has a good relationship with the Ruth family. For any of you who don't know, Babe Ruth's daughter, Julia, passed away in 2019 at 102. She was not biologically his daughter, but she was Claire's daughter from her first marriage. Babe legally adopted her, and actually later gave her a blood transfusion. So then she was actually connected to him directly by blood. And she always referred to him as Daddy. We had a wonderful relationship with her up until the day she died. And we're still involved with the family. Babe Ruth name and trademark, as you can imagine, sells. It's like Elvis Presley, even though the man's been dead 70 plus years, his face, his logo, anything that kind of has his stamp on it still sells like hotcakes. So we carry a lot of Babe Ruth merchandise. It's authenticated by the family. We do much better, obviously, in the summer months. The Orioles, unfortunately, the last couple of seasons have not been great. So that does affect foot traffic and with COVID restrictions. But we're here, we're back on our feet. We're doing pretty darn well, all things considered, during the pandemic. And look forward to next summer. The shifting gears slightly, the Baltimore chapter of SABR came into existence only in 2015. I know you guys hosted the national convention in 2014 in Houston. I was hoping to go to that year, but I was a newlywed, and then I ended up losing my job. So I had to take a pass and ended up doing my first convention the next year in Chicago. But we came in existence in 2015, thanks to the hard work of a lot of individuals who wanted to see a chapter in Baltimore. They're, in SABR's history, the oldest, and for the most part, was actually the largest chapter. The Bob David chapter was based in Washington, D.C. And held a lot of his events in DC and the DC suburbs, but basically encompassed all of DC, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, parts of Pennsylvania, Delaware, and down into the Carolinas. And a lot of SABR members who were from Maryland, Northern Maryland, and up into Pennsylvania didn't want to go to Washington. This is before the Zoom days, of course, for a lot of their events. So eventually some people smarter than me got together and made a push, and we created the Baltimore Babe Ruth chapter in 2015, and did pretty well right out of the gate. We ended up stealing the president from the Bob David chapter because he actually lives closer to Baltimore than he does to DC. And in conjunction with the birthplace and holding some of our meetings there and at Camden Yards, we grew pretty well over the years. So much so that by 2017, there was already whispers that we would be hosting a national convention for SABR 50. I was told that personally by the then SABR CEO in Manhattan. And of course, it was announced in 2019. I don't know if you guys went to the last, any of you were at the convention in San Diego, which was fun. That Baltimore had it for 2020. And of course, we all know what happened in 2020. And we've been bumped and bumped and bumped and bumped and bumped. Luckily, Scott Bush and the folks at SABR in Phoenix have rolled with the punches. They've kept tabs on the field. They wanted to keep it in Baltimore because I believe there was a way back in the early days of SABR, might be in the early 80s, there was a national convention in the Baltimore suburbs in Towson held at the university, and then they came into the city for a game at Memorial Stadium. So, but it has not been in Maryland since. It's been in Washington, it's been in Philadelphia, but not in Baltimore proper. So now next year, 2022, it will finally hopefully happen in August. It's later than it's been in the past. Usually it's been in late June or early July. But the folks at SABR wanted to make sure that we coincided with home game, because that would not be fun for a lot of fans who came to a convention and there wasn't, the Orioles wouldn't be at home during that time frame. And the Orioles are very excited to be intertwined with this.
Peter, that was true to 82.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. To let you guys know, I don't know if Houston, if your chapter had a tie-in with this, Baltimore is doing a book tie-in. SABR's putting out a book. that basically is the history of the games in Baltimore, professionally, obviously, going back to the 1860s. Baltimore is a very old city, and it kind of gets forgotten being in between Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia, and, on the pipeline up to New York. So Bill Nowlin, as most of you recognize that name, started putting this together way back in 2019, pre-pandemic. And it's actually finally done. It's being released earlier than convention to get people interested. And, obviously sell some copies for Christmas and that kind of thing. SABR, for those of you, I assume you're all SABR members and on the list, you should get a link from Jacob later in the week for the electronic version that we all get free downloads. And of course, you can buy the paperback copy. Those of us who contributed got it in the mail about a week and a half ago. And it looks great. I believe about 54 SABR members from all over the country contributed to it. And there actually will be an official book launch. Let me get this right. November 13th at the museum, where a couple of us who contributed to it, who live in the Baltimore region, will be there talking about it and signing. And some in-person copies and stuff will be carried in the museum's gift shop. So, 2022, it's 2 years later than we wanted for the convention. We're hoping to land several Hall of Famers. The Orioles had a pretty storied history there for a long time. Unfortunately, several have passed away of the immortal names, but we're hoping, working with the Orioles, to have people on a panel. Originally in 2020, we would have had several anniversaries that tied in with Baltimore baseball history. Of course, it was the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Negro Leagues in 2020. It was also, from a Babe Ruth standpoint, the 100th anniversary of his first season in New York, where everything changed after that. And also in Baltimore history, it's 50 years since the 1970 Orioles World Champions, which was a juggernaut of a team, and 25 years since Cal broke Lou Gehrig's record in 1995. So, of course, all of those topics and more will probably be part of panels and presentations next summer in August. The Grand Hyatt Hotel is literally about 8 blocks from where I live, so I have no excuse not to go to the convention. We're looking forward to hosting everyone from all over the U.S. According to SABR history, the conventions on the East Coast seem to do better number-wise. Baltimore was selected because it hadn't had one in forever, and also it's a lot cheaper of a city than Philadelphia, New York, DC, and some of the other East Coast baseball locations. So, looking forward to seeing you guys next August. Obviously, Babe Ruth Museum will be part of the tour. I'm sure there'll be a panel on Ruth and all that kind of stuff downtown. August, let me get the dates right. I think it's August 17th to the 21st. So towards the end of the summer, but it's still hopefully vacation season for most people. Pending no pandemic flare-ups, those dates are locked in. We will be playing Boston that weekend during a homestand. So that'll be a pretty big draw. And I also volunteer with the Orioles as a member of the program they call the Designated Hitters, where I help sell on a volunteer basis tickets. So I get to go to a lot of games since I live literally a mile from the ballpark and the warehouse. So it's one of the many perks of living downtown and not having children and being able to have a lot of free time in the evenings. I guess that's about it off the top of my head. I can go into greater detail on any number of Baltimore and Baltimore related topics. I know we have an academic presentation after I'm done to go to, so I'll let you guys fire away with questions, comments, anything else. I didn't prepare a slideshow or anything like that because you guys are going to see the city hopefully next summer in person. So I'll let some of the mystique stay that way for now. And actually next April, we'll be celebrating the 30th anniversary of Camden Yards. I'm sure that will be a big topic at the convention as well, because if there wasn't a Camden Yards, you guys would probably still be in the Astrodome, and there would be Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, and we'd be dealing with the giant concrete donuts that we all love to hate. So questions, comments, anything else? I do apologize. I was actually supposed to be down in Houston, and I was going to meet with Bob and Joe. I was going to come the first weekend of October, the last regular season games, and come see an Astros game. I've never been to Houston, and then go see the new ballpark at Arlington. But I fell ill and I ended up in the hospital a few days later. So I had to scrap that, but I hope to maybe next summer get down to see your wonderful city and everything I've heard about it, and see if it's all true.
I've got a question, Peter, Bob. One of the things that I've enjoyed at previous convention is a tour of old time ballparks that are maybe no longer in existence. We did that in Philadelphia. We did that in Cleveland. We did it here. And unfortunately, we didn't do it in San Diego or New York. Are you all working on something like that where there can be a tour maybe on the day before the convention or on Sunday morning?
Yes, we're hoping to do that. We have ballpark experts who are part of the chapter. Actually, a couple of them are officers. And luckily in Baltimore, a lot of the early ballparks fall within the same neighborhood. Actually, the Peabody Heights Brewery, if you guys want to look it up, is a brewery. The gentleman who owns it is our chapter treasurer. Sits on the site of Oriole Park 5, which is uptown, north of the Inner Harbor. And SABR actually helped pay for a marker, historical marker that was installed this past spring. I went to the Chicago convention and they did a bus trip. I think that was the last day of the convention. That was an a la carte add-on that went to all the sites in Chicago, professional parks. And I really enjoyed that. We're hoping to make that part of it and include, Negro League parks. We have the experts logistically, have to figure it out if it's going to be something you can add on extras, or it's going to be part of the if you buy the all-inclusive package, assuming SABR still do that, that headquarters sets all that kind of stuff up. But that is on our agenda. There's also looking to be a walking tour of the area around Camden Yards, or at least a map where you can go and see some of the sites that are affiliated with Babe Ruth. Now, he did live, when he was with his parents before they sent him to the reform school, he did live in several homes, and some of them are in not so great areas, this stage of the game. So he wouldn't want people to go somewhere where they wouldn't feel comfortable, but the areas right around Camden Yards, where his dad has saloons and whatnot, would probably be part of a walking tour. So yes, we're looking to do a bus trip of all the ballparks, because for those of you who pick this book up or download the PDF or whatever when it comes out from Jacob later in the week, there's an article on every ballpark, Bugle Field, from the Negro Leagues, everything going back, primarily written by the same author, David Stinson, who's on our board, who's a Baltimore baseball expert. So you will learn, can learn about the ballparks ahead of time and where they're located and stuff. Inside this book, aside from the articles on individual ballparks, there's articles on games of note, of the National League Orioles, the early American League Orioles before they left for New York, the International League Orioles, the minor league team, and of course the modern day franchise as well. I contributed 2 articles, but there's people here who did 6, 7, and 8, and they're, everything I've read so far is wonderful. Baltimore's had an interesting baseball professional history of kind of start and stop and start and stop. It was in the National Association and American Association, and absorbed into the National League, and then they folded, and then the American League, and kind of here and there and here and there and here and there. And then, of course, the modern Orioles moved from St. Louis in 54 and have been here ever since. But people who are true baseball fans of Baltimore baseball know about the other Orioles incarnations, but not everybody does. And this book and hopefully the convention will touch on that and how important baseball has been, and the big names who come out of this region, not just Baltimore proper, all of Maryland, gone on to become historical names: Jimmy Fox, Al Kaline, whatever, folks who didn't necessarily play for a Baltimore franchise, but became immortals in their own right.
I haven't checked the schedule, but will Washington be home during this same period? Is there a possibility?
I believe, and I looked at it, and it's not in front of me. Washington will not be home during the weekend, but I think for those people who like to stay an extra couple days, I think they will be home like on Monday or Tuesday after the convention's ended. For those of you who don't know, DC is only about 40 miles south of Baltimore, easily accessible by auto or train. But they will not be home this exact same weekend. There is a distinct possibility one of the Orioles minor league teams who are excited as heck to have the convention here might have an event over the weekend as well for people who are interested. The Bowie Bay Sox, who are the AA team. It's about 30 miles away, down closer to Annapolis. Interestingly, you guys know about Major League Baseball usually does the Little League Classic game every year, where two teams play in Williamsport. The weekend that the convention is going on, Baltimore will play Boston Friday and Saturday here, and normally would be Sunday would be a day game. That will actually, Baltimore and Boston will be playing a couple hundred miles away up in Williamsport. So sticking around on Sunday, more than likely we will have a game at Bowie or Aberdeen to see the Orioles minor league affiliate, which is in the Baltimore suburbs. So while you guys are looking, I'm gonna try to look at Washington's schedule the next year and tell you down. So fire away.
Who owned the who is the owner of the Oriole?
The owners of the Orioles.
Who owns the Oriole?
Who owns the Orioles? It's still the Andrews family are the primary owners. He bought the team out of bankruptcy in 1990. Mr. Angelos is very, very, very ill, from what I understand. So even though his name is on the letterhead, his two sons, both of them are attorneys, basically run the club, and were the ones who brought in Mike Elias and his regime after the 2018 season.
Since the Orioles are going through what the Astros went through 10 years ago, are the Orioles drafting well to make for the future?
Yes, they are. They actually, right now, they have the #1 farm system in the majors, according to all those people who rank everything. So they've done pretty well. They have some big names upcoming. Just a lot of them aren't on the major league roster yet. So you might have to wait a few more years before you see any progress at the at the major league level. I was hoping for a little bit more progress this year. Pitching is still a big problem. Camden Yards is a hitter's park, so it's hard to get big free agents and stuff to come here. But at the same time, you got to work with what you have, and hopefully in the very near future there will be standing wise.
Yes, I have a question. What is your opinion on the player Chris Davis retiring this year after some hip problems in the beginning of the year and last year?
Well, honestly, you wanted to see the guy do well because he did so well several years here after we got him from the Texas Rangers. and he signed a big deal. And like a lot of those big deals, one of his back end, he's going to be paid forever. Like Sin Wade, Bobby Bonilla, and Manny Ramirez are being played by their clubs, and they've been retired forever. He was a fan favorite. People wanted to see him do well. He's done a lot for the community in terms of charity and donations and being involved and whatnot. But after that year when, he set the record for going 0 for whatever, that must have been 2018 or 19 already. And you knew he was on the downhill sliding, just never got that swing back. And next year, 2022 was the last year of his deal. And then when they put him on the injured reserve for the entire season this year, people were like, well, he's pretty much done. Maybe we'll see him a little bit next year, but that'll be it. So it shocked me personally that he announced his retirement, but it's for the betterment of the team. They're still paying him from everything that I understand. They're going to honor the deal. Whether he's going to have a role with the team or not, I'm not sure. You still see a lot of his jerseys and T-shirts in the stands. He fell off overnight and never got that whatever he had back. Feel bad for the guy because careers can end prematurely, and I think that's what happened in his case. But enough people have stepped up and filled the roles, the Mancini's, and we had Mountcastle's in running for the year this year. And so we're good at first base. We're good with sort of the power kind of players. Now we need some finesse guys and some big pitching, and we'll be okay. I'll miss Chris, but since he hasn't been potent in the lineup for 2 or 3 seasons, the team statistically really isn't missing him. Let's put it that way.
You know about the Houston connection with Mike Elias. He was here before you guys. I think Zig went up there also. Do you think Mike's in trouble? Think Mike's in that kind of trouble because of the performance of the team?
No, I haven't heard anything. There've been whispers about the manager who he selected because Showalter was here through 2018, and then cleaned house. And when the Elias regime came in with Sig, and they picked Brandon Hyde, who had been an assistant under Joe Madden in the Cubs, so obviously had been in the postseason and won it all and been through all that stuff. There's been whispers about getting rid of the manager, and he's not tough as nails. Or are they just sitting on him just so they get better, and then they'll go out and hook a big name? Or will they bring up somebody through the Orioles minor league system? There hasn't been anything in terms of calling for Elias's head, but there's been a lot, hot seat stuff under the manager. But apparently he's safe at least through next year. So I've met Elias once or twice. Nice guy. Brief conversations. Sig is more than likely going to be one of the keynote speakers at the, or at least originally was when it was going to be in 2020. Hopefully he's still on board. There's one of the I don't know if the welcome address or whatnot. I'm not in charge of lining up all the speakers, but I do sit on the planning committee, and some of the names and stuff they've thrown around, you guys would recognize for sure. Of course, we're still a little less than 10 months away. So will the Orioles be out of the basement next year? If Rutschman and some of the guys who were in Double and AAA last year, I don't think will start in the majors in the spring, but they might come up when the service time, depending on how that goes with the collective bargaining and if the dates change. If they come up by May or June, you could probably see improvement. The AL East, as you know, is pretty consistently stacked. Tampa, Toronto, Boston, you just can't win. You have to wait for somebody to have an off year and take advantage of it. But the Orioles, the rumor always is that they're going to leave someday. It's not profitable to be in Baltimore. So many fans left the Orioles when Washington came into existence and go to their park 40 miles away. So there's always been rumors that maybe the Orioles will pick up and move to Memphis, but I highly doubt Major League Baseball will ever allow Baltimore to leave, given the year and the fact that the ballpark is so classic. My personal opinion, and it's a baseball town when they're winning, and it's a football town otherwise. Baltimore's not a large city; it's only about 600,000 in population. So they only have the 2 professional major level sports here, but they both do well. I mean, we were in the playoffs three times in 5 seasons, and I went to a couple playoff games, and the crowds were there. And then, of course, when you start going on your down climb, and then COVID hit, we basically had nobody this year. I don't even know if we got 1 million fans. Of course, there was pod seating and stuff for the first several months, but the loyalty is there, the tradition is there. You just got to get the right combination of players to develop that relationship with the fans. We had that with Adam Jones, and I think we probably can have it with Mancini and Mullins and stuff now to a certain extent, especially homegrown players. But I don't know how it is in Houston. I mean, you guys have a lot of all-stars, and they've done well the last half decade, really well. I'm still mad at you. I did pull for you in 2019. I know all the cheating stuff came out about that after the 19 season, about 17. But I pulled for you guys against the pretzel hats, and you couldn't do it. So I don't like the pretzel hats. I was like, why the hell they're allowed to have the Walgreens logo? I'll never understand. Playoffs. I'm conflicted because I know Dusty deserves a title, but technically he got 17. And the Braves haven't won since '95. I also feel for the Braves because we lost Hank Aaron this year, and in a certain way, they're probably playing in his memory because obviously he's one of the best of the best of the best. So it should be interesting. I went to actually a playoff game I went to was in 2019. I didn't go to the World Series, but I did go to the Game 4 of the NLCS in DC. Because they don't have a lot of diehard fans by any means down there, and was able to get tickets the day of the game from MLB directly in pretty good seats in the second deck. And my wife and I went, so we were there the night that Washington swept the Cardinals and won the pennant.
Oh, can I get some of the chat questions?
I don't know, check.
Probably Field. I have to get back to it. It's been a while since I've been there.
Good.
But, so Peter,
This is Joe.
I last time I was in Baltimore, I just went through in '94, but this has been the first time I've ever gone to the museum. Let's say somebody new walking into the museum, they know a lot about Babe Ruth, but they want to learn something new. About Babe Ruth they've never really heard of. Is there something you would tell them, somebody like me? You've never heard about Babe Ruth?
Well, people always are under the misunderstanding, and of course, this is based on faulty research back in decades. People always hear that he was sent to an orphanage, so they always assume he was an orphan. So if you clear that up, the story for many years was, well, his parents couldn't control him. He was incorrigible. He was basically a ruffian and a mini outlaw. So the courts sent him to the St. Mary's Industrial School because it was an orphanage and it was a court-ordered facility, but it was also a boarding school, which people don't realize. Thanks to Jane Levy, and who uncovered a lot of things and some of the deep, dark family secrets about his parents while he was away. Ended up divorcing and everything. His mom had an alcohol issue. He was sent to St. Mary's because his parents didn't have time for him. His dad basically had to deal with his mom, who was a nightmare, and like I said, had health problems. But they basically paid the boarding school, to take care of him, and actually signed legal custody over to the priests there. That's a big misconception that people have. Another thing is a lot of people don't realize he played for Baltimore. Right out of St. Mary's, he was signed to the then minor league Orioles. He was basically a AAA team. This is before there were farm clubs affiliated directly with parent clubs, but he played for the minor league Orioles for a few months, and they were hemorrhaging money. And he ended up having to be packed together in a deal and was sold to Boston, the Red Sox. And he almost went to the Cincinnati Reds. He almost went to the Philadelphia Athletics. So, history could have been a lot different if he had gone to a different franchise. So, I mean, there's a million and one stories. Like I said, the man's been dead 70 plus years. More and more info comes out now, thanks to digital archives and whatever. But you'd be surprised what people think they know and then end up discovering. Well, Boston traded him. No, they sold it. He ended his career with the Yankees. Well, no, the Yankees released him and he played the last couple of months of his career for a National League team, the Boston Braves. So, the non-Saber diehard kind of people love to get that swelled head thing. I know everything, and you throw out some facts and stuff, and then you have to end up clearing it up. So it's interesting. A lot of people avoid the museum because they'll say, I hate the Yankees, so I'm not going to the Babe Ruth Museum. Well, yes, most of his career was in New York and his best statistical years and all that stuff and how he changed the game, et cetera. But what he did for baseball is much more than just making a franchise. That we get fans from all over the world, and especially fans from the Far East, from Asia, who come in and are just still fascinated with all he did. And then, of course, the Ohtani tie-in this year, and he's the next Babe Ruth, and he's doing things that Ruth hasn't done, and all this kind of stuff. And while he's a phenomenal athlete, let him do that for 3 or 4 seasons and then come and talk to me. A one-off whirlwind isn't as impressive to me as a career. When your ERA is around 2. Babe had 94 wins before he stopped pitching. And he did have several saves actually when he was a Yankee. And then his lifetime slugging percentage is .690 that no one on earth has ever come close to career-wise. So the Ohtani things are great for comparison because they keep the Ruth name out there in the public eye in mind. But it's when the careers come to the end, then we can start comparing Mays and Aaron and this guy and this guy and this guy, and see where the spotlight falls at the end of their days. So, but the museum's going to be looking forward to hosting all you guys next summer. Probably, I'm going to think it's included as part of the convention pass. So if you have like the convention lanyard type of thing, you'll be able to go in. But all that stuff will be worked out in the off season. But hopefully, at least you get a chance on your own time to stop over there and get through. And you'll be like me and find a. I pointed out to the curator a couple times and everything. I'm like, this stat, this average doesn't match with this year. This one's wrong, and all this kind of stuff. And that's the way Saber people are. There's a little inconsistency here or whatnot. So, that's what we do and what we do well. But just the history of baseball in Baltimore, which includes Ruth, obviously, as his hometown, is it's pretty immense. And we're hoping, SABR is hoping, headquarters, the largest convention to date so far, attendance-wise, was the Manhattan one in 17, I guess that was. Because I didn't go to Miami because I was sick that year. So I did. Yeah, so Manhattan was 17, and that was a little over 800. So they're hoping for 900 to 1,000 next summer here.
Is it true? Is it true that Babe almost died during the pandemic of 1918?
Yeah, they said he caught the Spanish flu on multiple occasions. So the guy seemed to have a lot of close calls, car accidents, and and this and that. But yeah, he survived. and obviously his life was cut short with the cancer he ended up getting, and he died in his early 50s. But for whatever reason, he was meant to do what he did and transform the game. And anything he's touched, I don't know if you guys follow the memorabilia market, things with his signature or that he wore or whatever. There's jerseys that have gone for $4 and $5 million over the past several years. Like he is the, and I have a book somewhere. It's like Babe Ruth being a master marketer. I forget the exact title. Probably 2019, 2020, and how he's just still the platinum level of collectibles. And it's just it's phenomenal that most other sports, and I don't really follow any other professional sports aside from baseball, kids don't know the major players of the game. 5-10 years after they're out of the limelight or they retire, you kind of forget who's this. So while it's LeBron James and this guy's of today, you ask a kid who Julius Erving is or Larry Bird or whomever who played 30, 35 years ago, I have no idea. Football's the same way. If I mentioned to a kid Dan Marino or whomever, they won't know. They only know the here and now. Baseball treats its legends much more like royalty, and the names are sort of ingrained in your mind and they're in the stars. There's people all over the world. Man's been dead since 1948 and people know who Babe Ruth is, and we'll say baseball and Yankees and this and home run and all the other things that come to mind. And it's humbling. I always take the George Will approach when I come to viewing sports. Everything else is back and forth: football, baseball, basketball, hockey. It's all boom, 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 boom. I like George Will said once on a forget what DVD I saw. It said he's like, baseball is 9 players thinly dispersed over an eye-pleasing green backdrop. And I was like, that's a nice poetic way of looking at it. And it's as you guys know, we're all huge fans. That there's nothing else like it. So, and then hopefully you guys can get a taste of Baltimore baseball, next summer.
Very good.
Do any of the stars, the past Orioles golden period, say Jim Palmer or anyone like that, come and promote the Orioles in any way? Like Biggio and Bagwell kind of promote the Astros.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of the Orioles. I don't know if you can see behind me. I have a shelf of statues. The Orioles have 6 retired numbers outside of Jackie Robinson, 5 players and 1 manager, who 10 years ago they put bronze statues inside the park in honor of the 20th anniversary of Camden Yards. Most of the Orioles, well, Frank Robinson's passed and Earl Weaver's passed, but Brooks, Robinson, Eddie Murray, and Jim Palmer all worked for the Orioles in one capacity or another. Cal has nothing to do with the team legally. So I know he comes to games and you see him and all that kind of stuff, but he owns his little empire of youth baseball and the camps and all that kind of stuff. 35 miles up the road where they're headquartered, he's still a household name. The Orioles, we're lucky we have, he's a SABR member, the Orioles alumni director. The Orioles do a lot of guys who are not Cooperstown Hall of Famers, but team legends who still live in the area, and do signings, and they'll bring guys if if we have a SABR game at Camden Yards, we get a speaker, I'll contact Bill Stetka, he'll get Kenny Singleton or Scotty McGregor or one of the a team great who's in the team hall to come and do a presentation. We have several of them on our SABR email list. Boo Powell's on our email list and whatnot. So they're very approachable. We have the chapter have a good relationship with the Orioles front office, Bill Stetka, and a couple other individuals that we have access. We do Zoom calls. We have one of the Orioles announcers, Jeff Arnold, who's on Masson and radio broadcasts, who's talking to us in November, and I've become pretty good friends with a public address announcer who's a female this year. And she's talking to our SABR group and whatnot. So we're pretty well intertwined with the team. Around here, as I'm sure it's in Houston, you celebrate the guys who did the most for your franchise. So Palmer and those kind of guys, walk on water. And you still see them around the ballpark, and they're relatively accessible. I all at one point or another. I even got to meet Frank Robinson and Earl Weaver before they died. So we're pretty lucky here. Unfortunately, hasn't been an immortal name since Cal. We've had good players, but not at that threshold. But who's coming up through the pipeline? Who's going to be your future for the next 2 decades?
Okay, good job. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you.
All right, guys. I'm going to end up dropping off because I got a little bit of stuff to do. So any of you guys need anything, just email me. And don't forget, you can always go into your profile in SABR and just join the Baltimore chapter, and that way you get our email updates and events too. So if you can't figure it out, just let me know and I can always add you.
Yeah, we piggybacked off of those guys for speakers from time to time. They've had some great speakers in Baltimore and Washington. And that's how we've got hold of a number of the people that we've had on Zoom. So we thank you for that. Yeah, Tony.
Thinking George Will, I think, remember he defined football as professional football as committee meeting interspersed with violence.
Oh boy, don't talk football around here. Okay, let's switch gears just a little bit. And Chris has come up with a presentation. He'll put on the screen here shortly. I'm in the way, so you're telling me to. Well, it's getting cool in here, isn't it? Too cold. Okay. All right. Scott, don't leave. We got in. You're on the program.
What are we doing with it, Chris?
You send me some of those pictures, so maybe I can select which one.
I'm gonna bring that one.
Okay. Let's see if we can make this more
Series. Really?
I want to put some on, right up the deal for the
Twice. Same.
baby. See what puts pictures in there too. You select which ones you want to put on there. Kind of right up the name.
Yeah.
To whatever.
So both of those, that's search engine. Put it on one.
Yeah. I don't think Sue's gonna sue us now.
Your catcher like that, give his name.
Jim,
Are you ready?
you're ready.
All right.
Doing.
Well, I put up something called. Oh, hold on a second. Technical problem. Here we go. A baseball chart for morning people. I just played to watch Astros when we're on the West Coast playing in Seattle. Game starts at 9, takes 3.5 hours to get done. So I wanted to go to bed with some level of confidence that the team that's winning or losing will end up winning or losing. So that's kind of my question is can we figure out what the odds are that the team will win if you know what the inning and the score is? So it's a very simple concept, but we're going to use play-by-play data from Retro Sheet. So I need play-by-play data because I need to see what the score was after each inning. And they have games going all the way back to 1915. And so it's about 175,000 games. And you look at at the end of the inning what the score is, who's winning and what the difference is in the score,
With,
and then go right to the end and see who won. And so it's just a simple calculation. I mean, I understand that if you look at the third inning of score, a lot can happen between them there and the end of the game. So when you put all that data together, you end up with a chart that looks something like this. Now I realize this is hard to read and small, so we're going to focus in on the upper left quadrant, which is the visitors, if they're ahead. And those are historical winning percentages for a combination of inning and lead. So for example, if the Astros are in the fourth inning of the game and they have a 3-run lead, then historically, they'll win 84% of the time. Now that's based on the whole chart is 175,000 games. There's about 11,000 of this situation over history, and about 9,000 times the visitor won in this situation.
If you go through 175.
That's a trick. And so this data, you start seeing some things that came up, and I want to point out. If you look at tie games in the first 8 innings, there's a distinct home field advantage because the visiting team in the tie game only wins 47% or so of the time. And as you look in other parts of the chart, similar situations, there is a real home field advantage, mainly because you don't, if you're a tie game, you don't need that many runs to score to win. And when you get to the 9th inning, now this is taken at the end of the top of the 9th. Obviously, if the visiting team is losing, the game is over. But they really only have a 1 in 3 shot of winning the game if they're tied going in the bottom of the 9th. So I thought they would, I didn't have any idea what was going to be better or worse, but that's what it ends up to in history. And then you start looking at the importance of 1 run. So if we go back to the winning percentage of the visiting team in tie games, around 47%, if they have just a 1-run lead, the winning percentage jumps from 12% in the first inning to a 40% increase by the 8th inning, just with a 1-run lead, nothing else going on. So if you want to go to bed at the 4th inning, they have a 1-run lead, you have a 63% chance the team that's in the lead is going to end up winning the game. That's what. So I'm able to rest easy, knowing that I don't have to worry about missing something fantastic. And then, as I was sending this out, a friend of my brother's, who's a SABR member in SABR in Atlanta, saw this and asked, "Well, how has this changed over time?" And I'm like, "Man, there's a lot of data." So let's simplify it. Just look at the visiting teams, and kind of stick with them in tie games by the decade. And we're going to look from the 6th inning on, because you start getting relief pitchers, which was more predominant in our current time. So in the 6th inning, you'll see it's basically about the same. There's not that much difference. Now, as we see in further charts, retro sheet data for the first 50 years, or 40 years or so, they don't have all the games. It's not a complete record of play-by-play data. But from about the 50s and 60s on, they do have basically all the baseball games. So we'll see some impact of that later in the next chart. So the 7th inning, again, it stays about, something happened in the 70s. I have to think about what's going on there, that the visiting team had a better chance of winning in the 70s than in the other decades. But it's all fairly consistent, which I was actually a little bit surprised about. And then the 8th inning, again, it's all consistent. See that 1910s drops off. That may be just because of the amount of available data. It may have caused issue. And then even the 9th inning, in the 40s, they had a good shot, but it stayed, even though baseball is played differently. I mean, the rules are different, the way they use players are different. It's still, baseball, and you have to recognize it from about the 60s on. It really hasn't changed that much as far as winning games with leads. I mean, because really a 1-run lead is basically 2 runs to win. So it's not that easy really to get 2 runs all the time. So some of the things we can conclude from this is the home team has a real advantage, a noticeable advantage in tie games especially, but even in similar situations in other parts of the chart. Even one run is important. I'm not a manager, I've been a manager, but and I'm not a major league player, obviously. But you could think that your mindset would be different if you were trailing by a run than if you were ahead by a run. You would just be feeling some pressure. And so I can see where just one run can make a difference in the way the game is played. And our poor visitors, if they go the ninth inning tied, they're most likely going to lose. So there's the chart again. And then what happened was somebody else I sent this to said they didn't care about baseball before 2000. They said, well, how's this chart look just in the modern game? So I did just one for the 2000 on. It is basically the same, except you have a smaller pool of games. You have about 50,000 games here. So some of the outlying numbers on the top and bottom are a little bit different, but basically in the core of it, which is, plus or minus 4 runs, is about the same ratios of winning and losing. Nothing has really changed too much. And then because my brother's in Atlanta and the Braves somehow got the World Series, I did one for the just playoffs. So this is just for the playoffs, which means Richard, you had play-by-play data from the 1903 World Series on. This is every playoff game that's been played. There's over 1,600 of them. So again, it's a smaller data set, but it shows this one. You can't hardly see the numbers, but the tie winning percentage is down a couple of points on the visitor. The home team has a bigger advantage in the playoffs. And even in the ninth inning, it's only 31% chance at the visitor instead of 34%. So it has a chance of winning a tie game in the ninth. What this also shows is if you have a 4-run lead in the ninth inning, you're going to win. No one's ever able to come back from 4 runs down in the ninth inning and won. So they've blown through 3-run leads, but they've never blown one more than 4 runs. In fact, if you're 4-run leads in the 8th, you can go to bed. It's just over. Well, it's just the 7th inning. You want to see them jump up and down in the 7th game. So now I have all these charts available. If you want to just email me, I've got them formatted so they print on 8.5 by 11 sheet. Nice. So what ends up happening is what I really like looking at is when you get, I'm gonna back up in a second, is if you have like it's a 5% chance of winning. Well, if you're the Rangers, you probably already lost. But if you're the Astros, you're a good team. This chart doesn't care how good you are, but you may think I've got a real shot because playing a lesser team. So I like to look at the if we have a situation where it's chances are you're going to lose, really good chance, but you end up winning. So if the games I can stay up for, the home games, yeah, we're always looking, we're 6 runs down in the 7th inning. We still got a shot. It's not over. It is, historically it's over, but you never know. Things can happen. So again, you can just email me if you want to at this address.
Information in the 70s that was puzzling.
Yeah, that was, I don't know why let's go back.
When they changed them out.
Yeah, so it's I didn't analyze why that is that way. It could be, I heard this lecture series on baseball where the guy said the home team used to be able to choose whether it would be the bat first or bat second. And that even went into the beginning of Major League Baseball, where you could, if you decided you wanted to be the visitor team that day, whatever it is you could, there was no rule against it. And then they simplified, or they made the rule now the home team bats last. So I don't think it really affects the data here. I don't think that's too far in the past. But yeah, that was a strange thing that kind of goes along. And I thought maybe it was like the 40s at one point were worse, but you can see World War II messes up the players that you have, but I haven't analyzed it close enough to
They built a bunch of cookie center ballparks that were all the same size and all big, and they played pitch and defense. The Astros were scratches.
Right,
You run stolen bases, pitchers was deep.
I think the Cardinals, when they were Tommy Hurt had less than 10 home runs, but he had four.
One runner was a lot bigger in the '70s.
So yeah, they didn't have the ballparks.
No, they did, and that was one of the reasons they built Camden Yards, and the rest of it, to get some offense back in the game, and all the pitchers were shorter.
Yeah. So really, baseball's still baseball, I guess.
There was also a period of time where, say, your closer was frequently used for more than one inning,
Yes.
which is going to, so if he's really effective, that's going to enhance your chances. Guys, that you go 3 innings a lot. But it gives them so much. So the starters, check Gossett, Suter, effortlessly.
So I want something simple, like put on a chart and not worry about calculating some kind of win probability and some kind of high level math. Just sitting there with a piece of paper in my hand, when the wife says, "We still watching this game? Is it 7 runs?" I said, "We have a 3% chance of winning this thing." You win a lot of arguments with if you have a scientific chart in your hand.
So that's a real interesting study. How long did it take you to put this together?
It took a while because I had to, it's 175,000 games, which is times 9 innings. Plus, because you have to look at all the extra innings too. So it gets a big data set. Once you get the data out of RetroSheet, then it's just a matter of letting it calculate out. But it took a while. But after that, it was but the playoff one was simple. Because all the formulas were set up, and all I did was, and the data was just separate, a much smaller data set to deal with.
Just after the national convention.
I was thinking the same thing. You ought to enter that.
Good.
You'll have to put that.
Do you think I wonder about this stuff, and we just get a beer?
Chance of winning.
Chris, do you think maybe in the '70s, that's the decade where a lot of teams installed AstroTurf? You think that might have changed the game? So
Let's get into what Hank said. The parks are basically the same.
yeah, but I mean,
So
AstroTurf changes
yeah, but
playing surface and makes it faster. After you think maybe that's something?
Well, they gave
teams are kind of constructed. If you have all the same ballparks,
Yeah,
all the same-
the DH was added in the 70s also.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first year of it. Maybe they didn't. The first decade they added. Maybe it was a different.
I don't know. We're just looking for variables that explains it.
Probably could be a whole lot. I mean, all they have a little piece of it until they get, finding the one that's the little nugget of gold that says that is the reason why the chart looks like it does.
The DH too.
I would still maintain the biggest issue is if you're ahead in the 7th inning and you got Suter out there, he's gonna pitch the 8th and the 9th for you.
And you're changing your defense. You're putting in better defense players generally. And so your team on the field is not at the end is not the same one that started. I mean, and especially if you're built maybe naturally back 48, you built switching. But it's still kind of after that, it kind of levels out or it's that far off being the same number. But
Yeah, the managers get a hold of this. We're gonna see them pulling their regular golf. Well, we only got a 22% chance of winning. We're gonna rest these guys.
But 22%. But this has no. This doesn't take into account who you're playing. That poor guy from Baltimore, with their bad staff. This chart may not have. I mean, if we did one for each team, you'd probably see a great variant. Then you would be down into who the pitching staff was.
Right.
Just kind of this amalgamated, so you don't really know. That's the thing I said. Hey, look, we're playing Seattle. They got some guys. Okay, it's over. We're playing Boston. You don't expect to have a big 7-run inning in a playoff. That's kind of.
Well, and I gotta say something here that the Cubs I was watching, and they came back to win against the Cardinals before the Cardinals caught fire by scoring 9 in the 9th inning. I mean, and the Cardinals went on a very hot tear and made the playoffs. Nobody saw either one of those things coming. It's not only what team you play, but when you play them.
Right. There's a lot of variables. This simplifies it quite a bit because it's just looking at every team that's ever played in this situation.
One player at 75,000 games. Wait, what, 1910?
1915 to 2020.
Since the major leagues were paired together, like, no, 1903. You have the understanding, total games played.
I could find it, but I didn't, I just looked at that. And again, you know, we have,
200,000.
yeah, it's a lot of games, but again, in the early decades, Retro Sheet doesn't have play-by-play data for
Yeah.
all those games, so.
It's better baseball.
There's a lot, so that's why, you know, the chart to me, at least it's got everything on there. And so it's, but as the charts, as the data gets smaller because you get in the playoffs, the bands get smaller, but it's still the same basic idea. If you have a 2 or 3 run lead, you're in much better shape, obviously, than if you're, especially in the playoffs, you don't have that. You get, you know, the game, and nowadays, goodness gracious, it started only to go 3 innings. And then you're into a whole different strategy back in the day when, you know, in the 70s, I just read a guy who did a kind of a recap of the 71 World Series, and their starters were going 7, 8 innings. They were expected to, even in the playoffs, even if they gave up 2 or 3 runs, they were, you know, Palmer, Cuellar, McNally, Dobson. You didn't expect those guys to be pulled. You weren't, you know, between that guy in the 7th inning is still probably better than 6 or 7 guys that are in the bullpen. And you know, they bring the closer and they're in the guy in the game, but even then they would put in Dobson to come in and pitch when he would be on his off day. So they kind of, but it was a different mindset back then. But it's, yeah, it's
One
like,
game, like that, either.
So-
Did any pitcher win 20 games left?
60 games.
that guy for the Dodgers won Arias won Dodgers.
The Reyes 120.
Yeah, I think he was the only one I'm aware of.
Good stuff, Chris.
So again, there's the email address. If you want to get a copy of it, just send it to me. I'll send it to PDF, easy to print out. My wife laughs at me because I printed mine on hard copy stock so it wouldn't get torn up by the dog, but she just laughs at me, mocks me. So that's my baseball chart for morning people.
Excellent. Thank you.
You bet.
Any questions? Any more for Chris? I do think you have to respond to what Tal said and maybe submit this in the next couple of months when they start coming up with the agenda for the national.
Hmm.
That's a 20-minute presentation.
Yes, please submit that, Chris, because the whole SABR community needs to see that. I mean, who amongst us hasn't gone to bed because, oh, I'm tired and they can't come back?
I'd like to see how the first place teams compare to the average. With meeting.
Just get your stats out and start to pop.
I said it's 10,000 games.
Like,
Okay,
Especially from the standpoint of making your decision as to whether you're going to stay up or not. When you have to weigh that now with the length of the game.
Well, listen, what was the other day? We were looking just like this. It was a 1-0 game. We were 3 hours in. It was a 6th inning. I'm like,
amen to that. Okay, SABR. Let's talk about SABR headquarters for a little bit. I've been a little bit critical of the organization because in the past, it's focused on raising money and promoting headquarters. Now, I think they made a significant change in that they're trying to help grow the game, but also have some ideas to help chapters. I've always said you need to do more to help us grow, make people more aware of who SABR is. And they've come out just Friday with a brand new program called the Local Grants Program, which you may or may not have read in This Week in SABR on Friday. And this is a program where SABR will provide $10,000 in total to individual projects that are supported by the chapter, not an individual, it has to be a chapter project, to grow the sport. And there are 4 basic pillars they talk about that they're looking at for possibility of projects. One is for research. SABR's always been into research. They're talking about databases and such things that support the chapter's research program. They're talking about preservation. What can be done to help preserve baseball, in particular, like commemorative plaques at ballparks, which we're going to talk about a little bit. They're talking about scholarship. What can be done to organize research symposiums and chapter research and getting out to the public to make them aware of SABR. And they're talking about the future of the game. How can we encourage more young people to get involved? I think there's a lot of potential here. I think there's going to be a lot of competition for people who are going to want to take part and get some money from SABR. And I talked to Mike Banks on Friday in some detail. I was hoping Mike would be on the program. I don't think he's here. Right here, Mike? But Mike Banks has been extremely successful in the past in getting ballpark markers put up around Houston. He's got one out there at the Astro. He's got one West End Park. He had to work very diligently with the historical commission, with the county, with the city, and with other entities to get them to agree to put up a marker. But they wouldn't provide any money. And he had to find a way to raise the money. This is a way where if SABR agrees with our project, if we decide that ballpark markers like one at Colt Stadium, and we can get maybe $2,000, we can get a ballpark marker put up there. And I think, as Tony told me earlier today, there are at least 6 locations here in Houston with our former major league ballpark, not necessarily major league ballparks. And I thought with Mike's expertise, and he's interested in participating in the program. He doesn't want to do all the work, but he's interested in seeing what can be developed. He knows some of the people who make markers. He knows the costs. He knows who the government officials are. He knows some of the behind the scene activity. If we would support a program like this, he'd be willing to help put it together. Now, one of the things that is involved is nominations for projects have to be submitted by January 31st. Now, Mike McCroskey also knows a lot about ballpark markers. I've been behind the scenes on some of these things. I think it's a tremendous opportunity, if the chapter thinks it's a good idea, to look into possibility of putting up a ballpark marker or 2. Now, this $10,000 will be available every year. It's not just a one-time shot. And so I like to kind of kick around. I know it's kind of new to all of you as far as what the 4 pillars are and what ideas we may come up with. But candidly, if we're going to make a submission, we have to make a decision in the next 30 days about what that project should be or could be. Well, we'll get it approved or not. I have a feeling that a lot of chapters are going to participate, want to ask for some help, because SABR has never had any money available in the past, as we all know, for local activities. Anybody have any comments or thoughts about it? Good, bad, or different? Yeah, Mike.
2 things. Have you ever given consideration to a marker program inside Minute Maid Park or inside the Astrodome or future? Some marks certain milestones or certain things to happen or something that needs to be in that location. At Fenway Park, they have somewhat of a marker program where they label things like this used to be the water heater that, literally heated the visiting clubhouse. This used to be the original entrance to the original clubhouse. And for the Astrodome project, I'm working on something like that. But do you think that could tie into Minute Maid Park? Because we always talk about creating a museum, a walking museum around Minute Maid Park, where people would not just go to one location, but they would walk and see these little markers.
This used to be Towels Hill.
Marking with Tal's face on there. No, I
think that might be a really great exposure on the SABR in the ballpark, but it has not happened. And Just thought.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with a lot of markers. I know that there's black up there for Daryl Kyle, player, and it's very small, the big yellow plaque is also small. So, yeah, yes, yeah.
You could do maybe even keep home, the former major leagues,
Excuse me?
or somebody said. Private home or something like that.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth lived in Houston, nobody knows that, but Houston, he did. It's hard.
Okay, so we go around and we find these ballparks, how is that gonna help expand SABR?
Notoriety. And publicity is more than we have right now. And you know, have a ceremony and all that kind of good stuff. I know Mike and Mike had a major deal with the Astrodome. When they had that ceremony, had all the political people out there, made television. It was very well done.
I had pictures.
Yeah, and most of us, a lot of us were there when that happened.
Went out to West End when we did that, I remember that, it was a plaque up of the used the lighting and power
Yeah, yeah,
place, and the TACOM used to play there in 05, whatever, so.
it's true.
In our case, we could actually expand it to Galveston.
Yeah.
Since that's close.
We could, we're both.
Their own ballpark.
Two Texas, that was the first ball game recorded. So. Straight walls and the gals, Robert Leeds, I think they were. Some of the Stonewalls in the 1867.
Seventh Avenue, I think, was called the Galveston, long ago, it's now parking lot, I mean, down there and check it out.
You know, Bob, from our book, is there a marker in the city that marks the spot where they had the first meeting in 1861 at the Houston Baseball Club?
Not to my knowledge, I know where it is.
That probably would be a
Yeah.
very good one,
Yeah,
you know, so.
Where was that, Joe?
The spot where the first meeting took place, April 12th, 1861. J. Evans.
kind of sort of got started, now they weren't that year, but, yeah, it's on Main Street,
Yeah, 315 Main Street.
yeah. Yeah, good thought, yeah.
Oh, just
I'm still a business there.
yes.
Yes, there is.
I was thinking of a plaque, I think it's in Milwaukee. Where the American League was, they had big meetings, but basically got the American League stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's in Milwaukee.
Well, one of the things Mike Vance suggested, which I thought was kind of interesting, if we go up to Colt Stadium, for example. I guess that property is owned by Harris County. It's a parking lot right now. And maybe, now I've got a plaque with Draw the Diamond on the driveway, on the parking lot, say, here's home plate, here's first base, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They've done that, and Milwaukee's done that, Rays have done that, the Yankees have done that at their ballparks.
And that's actually pretty similar to that.
Yeah, yeah,
In their parking.
yeah.
And in Hot Springs, they have the home plate where Babe Ruth did that home run in the Weyerhaeuser parking lot across from the alligator. And you can go stand there where Babe was.
He's famous for it.
That's classic.
That's classic. That's rich.
573 feet his first game, so right too.
And Mike, didn't you say that in Hot Springs that you go to the markers, there's like, it says like dial this phone number, whatever, on your cell phone, and you get a narrative?
Yeah, now I know how to work those little codes where you can play the video. I'll put your camera on it. But yeah, they have spots all over Hot Springs like that with
Does it seem like a worthwhile project for us to consider? Marker program?
Yeah. Something Mike said about Minute Maid, I don't know if you're thinking about inside or outside, but I was visualizing if there's any space outside, you had some space, have like kind of like a map, I guess, of greater Harris County and different stars on it from ballparks. And then say, go to that location and see the marker or whatever, maybe even.
That's good.
You have that audio also, where a little kid could just take his stuff on and text in a number. Here, boom.
Well, to take it a step further, use QR codes, augmented reality. And have things that pop up on your phone in front as you're looking at some art. Yeah, but I didn't kind of work on specifically for the film, but do that anywhere. They did a really great job for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 launch. Where you can see every stage of it. And you can see the rocket blast off right in front of us. It's there.
Okay. We have some volunteers that would like to get involved with it. Got to have some people who are willing to do some legwork on this project.
You also said something to do with promoting scholarships.
Yes, that's fine. Well, we need to zero in on one project. I don't think we, okay, well, I don't think we, if that's the one we want to pursue, that's fine. But I think we'll be lucky to get
Right.
anything. Mike Van said, let's try it for 1,000. I said, no, let's try it for 2. They go, always turns down. Let's go for what it will take, because it'll take $2,000 minimum for a marker. In fact, he was telling me how they had to go to San Antonio to pick it. They couldn't afford the freight. We bring in one of the markers, so I had to go get it. Put it in the back of a pickup truck. I mean, that's what you do. That's what you do. So here's some volunteers.
Oh, no.
Okay, okay, great. Sure. Okay.
I'll be happy to call Mike. Talk to you a little.
Well,
I think there's some lots of media opportunities to you and tie back to the YouTube channel.
we're talking about proposal now. We're not talking about, actually facilitating anything. We want to get them to agree to our project. So there's an outline for that project. And I'll send it to you.
Okay, so we did a book. We researched the book with all the ballparks in Houston.
Mhm.
So, and we did 2 plaques, the Astrodome and the West End. So what ballparks did we miss that were located? Or you just zeroing in on Old 45 Stadium and.
They're just 2 that don't.
Free section of that.
Just 2 that have black.
You got Buff Stadium.
Yeah.
Buff Stadium's got
Yeah, Buff Stadium, Toll Stadium, East End Park, the old racetrack. Well, you can play baseball inside a racetrack here in town over near Rice. There are a number of facilities. We only can pick one. And we got to get the property owner's permission. It's not something you can say, hey, we're gonna do this. We got to go through all the steps. And my parents telling me all the steps they had to go through. It's a 2-year process. Just doesn't happen all the time. But we can make a submission, but here's what we plan to do. This is the setup, et cetera. This is what's going to cost. Here's how we visualize it. Good.
We have to narrow down to a ballpark. And
Yeah.
proceed from there.
I would think that would be proper approach.
Well, it seems like the hangup is the property owner and the money. And if you get the money taken care of,
Yes.
then just whichever property owner wants that plaque
Yeah.
will get it. And it's,
One of the things about Colt Stadium is NRG Stadium's property. And it'd probably be easy to get. It'd be easier to get the property owner to say yes.
I need some help. I know. Executive director, which is Sports and Convention Corporation.
There you go.
He's a friend of mine and then we can talk about that.
Yeah. That's what's going to take, Mike.
I'm negative to them. It's
I don't
like,
mind it. He's a busy man, but
If you get Mike Acosta on the project, he's on the project. He doesn't have a lot of time, but he'll get on really. Okay,
If you just go on board.
okay. Real quick, Mike, we're talking about the newsletter. We have a newsletter that's due to be out next week. It's not gonna come out next week because we're gonna wait till the World Series is over. But Tony, you want to bring us up to date on where we stand? And Scott?
Thanks, Scott. Well, I think we have some articles ready to go. And honestly, more articles, somebody has some ideas to send articles. We think we can say something in the newsletter about when it comes out about the season, some retrospective there. That certainly is different. There's a project that we can do.
Yeah, if anyone wants to write something up about the Astros season, that'd be a great thing to have.
And
Hopefully get some from Skeeters.
something about Eddie Robinson just passed away. He played in Baltimore before he went to the major leagues.
Yeah.
So did Reggie Jackson. All the greats.
Here's a thought. I was just listening to this radio. Debating what's the greatest Houston Astro team of all time.
And the consensus was it was 2019. And they didn't win the World Series. But they were actually the greatest team that the Astros had, especially out this last 5 years. And they had a point. Yeah. I mean, they won 107 games in regular season. 2 aces. They had 2 aces. But they could. By the way, home field advantage, if it ever was shown not to be the fact that I just bizarre.
And 7
And the 1906 Chicago Cubs. They said the record that most games going to be lost in White Sox.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, it's
Actually, it was the Seattle Mariners.
and anyway, things like that.
So,
Oh, 116, yeah, the Mariners.
You should know something. That fast play.
wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all.
If somebody can write something up, we need to get their agreement tonight.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't happen, just because you ask for somebody to write something up, it doesn't happen. So if somebody who wants to delve into that after the World Series is over, that would be great. We've also got ARPA coming out on Joe West, we do have it.
What's that?
The Joe West article you wrote,
Oh, yeah.
will be in the next, it'll come out in November, early November.
Well, even just the talk shows. Why that
Great Joe West, yeah.
Right after his retirement. Speaking of Joe West, I get tired of hearing all these talk show people put him in class with Angel Hernandez and Laz Diaz. Joe is a really good ball strike guy. He also knows the rules. No, he doesn't move around very well anymore. But it always used to bug because I watched the last game I saw him watch. I wasn't playoffs. He was on that strike zone.
Oh, yeah, the wild card game?
Yeah, he was on that strike zone.
He didn't miss one.
You see, these guys missed pitches by 8 inches.
and 23 pitches here, but
Yeah, 23 pitches in one game by Diaz.
Interesting, they announced today, Fred and I talked about it.
Yeah.
They're gonna have 3 umpires who've never umpired a World Series game before. Good or bad, I don't know, we'll see. Fred knows the guy.
They've been in there 7-9 years.
Yeah, well, we had some in there 20 years that couldn't call balls.
Look at, they're not so bad. We had one senator.
Well,
Bob, those younger kids might have better answers.
Maybe so, maybe that's what we need. We'll find out.
Conroy, who's home plate tomorrow, he's from Houston.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to invite him in here. So he'll take some rust.
Are we cheating again?
If we need to.
Believe me, it'll come up. Okay, let's go to our infamous trivia contest. Fred, you're up, partner.
Are they, the Zoom, we're gonna do it too?
Sure.
Okay, so
We have to read it.
Yeah, I'll read them.
Yeah.
Well, you're smiling at everybody.
Wow.
They always let my brother just say,
I'll ask you. He's not back here. Are these fans? No, so the strength, I think, of Novella. Chuck Willen, that's not too late. Okay. Yes, all right. I got one. You use that. Where's that quiz? Are we doing team?
yes.
You need a team? Okay. Okay, good to see you.
I will tell you that the guy who wrote the guy who had the with.
Yeah.
With me.
Yeah, what's his name?
Chris Phillips.
Chris Phillips?
Yeah.
And he's from where?
Pittsburgh. They'll, Carnegie's University, and he did the book about for.
Peter, if you Google these out, you have like a screen, I'll turn the camera and get to you.
Okay, maybe December though. Shake this.
You guys ready for trivia quiz?
Scorching.
So Shelley.
And Scott.
Mr. Shelley. Okay, we ready?
I did one. I just got it. I'm always been so. Yeah. Oh, it's an old thing.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. Get to look at them.
Gotta wait for the boss.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Bob Bristol, okay. Number 1,
Who was on deck when Bill Mazeroski hit his World Series walk-off homer? He was on deck. Number 2, name the pitcher who has a record for the longest complete game in World Series history, 14 innings. And a hint, he was a lefty. Did you get it? Did you know him? Number 3, who pitched the last complete game in a World Series? Hint, Royals. When people talk about the records that'll never be broken, I think 749 complete games by Cy Young. That's more than the 511 wins. 749 complete games. Number 4, who was the only pitcher to appear in all 7 games of one World Series? Hint, Oakland A's. Your brother got that. Number 5, what World Series winner was outscored by 20 runs by opponents during the regular season? It's an amazing stat.
Could you repeat that question? I didn't hear it.
What World Series winner was outscored by 20 runs by opponents during the regular season? They had a minus 20. Number 6, who holds the World Series batting record for a World Series that came during a 4-game sweep and he batted .750? And the other hint I can give you, before he set the record, he was a Houston Astro. Well, Hank Bell. The Hank Bauer played football for the Chargers. 750. In the 2005 World Series, the Astros lost 4 straight to the White Sox. How many runs did the White Sox outscore the Astros in those 4 games? You know, it has to be a minimum of 4.
Right, Chris's.
Number 8, what Astros pitcher lost 2 games in the 2005 World Series? They lost 4 straight, so he lost 2 of them. 50%. Number 9, who was on deck for Toronto when Joe Carter hit his walk-off homer? Who would have gotten a chance? When Bobby Thompson hit his big home run, Willie Mays was on that. Number 10, after Don Larson's perfect game, what World Series hurler came the closest to pitching a no-hitter in the World Series? And it was a 1-hitter. And I remember watching it. I'll see when I was a kid. I'll give you another hint.
Goes from like 9, 10, 10.
Yes. Hey, what is the only team to have won and lost the World Series in 3 different cities? They won in 3 cities and they lost in 3 cities. Oops. It's probably the easiest one on here, but it's still a couple of choices. Number 12, who is the one World Series MVP chosen from the losing team? Not from the winner.
Mike, here's your question.
All right. Good. So,
Number 13, what team has won 2 World Series titles as a wild card team, but has never won their own division? That's crazy. The only way they could get in the series is to be wild card. Number 14. What 2 teams played the first night game in World Series history? That surprised me. Because I know the first night game baseball was 39, but it took a while for the World Series. Surprised. Number 4. Huh?
I said they were still playing all day World Series games.
Yep. I'll give you that hint too. Lived in the 50s, after the 50s. Okay, 15. What World Series is the only time the road team won every game in the series? I think everybody will get that. Yeah, we're already talking about. Now, this year, I think Albert Pujols is going to be a Hall of Famer. Played for the Dodgers. Now, 10, 15 years from now, is anybody going to remember that? They're going to remember the Angels, the Cardinals, and the Angels, but will they remember he played for the Dodgers? So what we got in the next 10 questions is what team did these Hall of Famers end up with? Their last, when they were on the roster last. Number 16 is Juan Marichal. What team did he retire from? There's a couple in here I didn't get, so that's why it's tough. Number 17, Wade Boggs. Who did he end his career with? Number 18, Gary Carter. What team did Gary end up with? Number 19, Steve Carlton. Huh?
No, back out, but he's not.
Number 20, Dennis Eckersley. You remember where he ended up? He was 21. That's a good one, I thought. Goose Gossage. Who did he play for this last year? Number 22, Ferguson Jenkins. Number 23, this is a tough one too. What team did Vladimir Guerrero end his career with? Number 24, my brother got this right. Randy Johnson. Who was his last team? People remember him like people that remember Pujols? I don't know. And last regular question is Phil Niekro. And then I have one bonus question here. when Joe West was installed as a regular major league umpire back in the 1978 season, who was the announcer for the Texas Rangers on TV? The hint, he's still announcing today. Not so much on TV, but he's announcing, I know, no radio. Was 1948.
Good job, good job. Now let's see if we get,
And let's see if anybody gets them.
3 or 4.
Yeah. Number one, who was on deck when Bill Mazeroski hit his World Series walk-off homer? No.
Dick Crow.
Huh?
Dick Crow.
No.
Al Smith,
Huh?
Al Smith,
John Hope.
Who?
John Hope.
No.
Bill
Here's the
Verdon.
thing.
Bill Verdon.
Who was the first baseman that got duped out of when Mickey Mantle got picked off and then he got to get back? Who was the first baseman that missed him?
It was Stewart.
No, very long. It was Rocky Nelson was playing. So that gives you who was on deck. No, Rocky was playing. Who was their regular first baseman that wasn't playing?
Dick Stewart.
Dick Stewart was on deck.
was it, Nelson's the guy who tried to steal home, he was thrown out, that's what they called him.
Right. Yep. Name the pitcher who has the records for the longest complete game in World Series history, 14 innings.
Pitched for Detroit.
Huh? Right, 45. Ooh. Oh, you're thinking of Hal Newhouser? No.
Oren Spahn.
No.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth.
That's good.
Where was he born? It was funny when we were talking, hey, tell me something you don't about Babe Ruth. Just give it a few minutes.
You win that game?
Yes.
Well, it's
What's it over there?
Okay, who pitched the last complete game in a World Series? And I said the hint Royals.
Right side of the
Nope.
Which year? I think it was 85.
15. 2015. He's still pitching today. Right. But on a different team.
Ranking.
Wade Davis?
Nope.
Scream it out, come on.
Johnny Cueto.
Right.
Who is the only pitcher to appear in all 7 games of a World Series?
Bobby Baker.
Nope. I knew everybody took the name.
Daryl Bell.
Daryl knows. Good.
Wow.
Good.
It's inside, Joe.
Well, the World Series winner was outscored by 20 runs by opponents during the regular season. No.
Marge.
Who?
59 White Sox.
Nope.
60 Pirates.
It's in the 80s.
87 Twins.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What got that? John got that?
Yeah.
87 Twins. That's right.
Good job.
Who holds the World Series batting record for a World Series? He had 750.
Billy Hatcher.
Yep. Ex-Astro too.
Who was he playing for?
Reds, Cincinnati Reds, 1990.
Well, I had Gary. We heard you had a preview here.
Yeah.
That's not Andrew.
What's that?
Gotta
No. Billy Hatcher, batted 750. In 2005, World Series, the Astros lost 4 straight to the White Sox. How many runs did the White Sox outscore the Astros by? 6.
We're still trying.
It's 2 runs, 1 run, 2 runs, 1 run. Last game, 1-0. So who is the Astro pitcher who lost 2 of them.
Oswald.
Brad Lidge.
Lights out.
And Lidge. Sorry, I'm late. Yeah. Number 9, who was on deck for Toronto when Joe Carter hit his walk-off homer? Nope.
George Springer.
Nope. Nothing.
Philly Blue Jay, I know.
Huh?
The Mahler,
Who?
Paul Mahler,
No.
Gary Carter.
George Bell.
Nope, but he used to wear a batting helmet even in the field.
Rude.
John Olerud. Yeah. John Olerud was next. After Don Larson's perfect game, what World Series hurler came the closest to pitching a no-hitter? Jim Lonborg is right.
67.
Yeah,
Against the car.
against the Cardinals.
Very good. I got one right on the expectation.
You guys, I guess.
When's the only team to have won and lost the World Series in 3 different cities? No.
Cardinals.
Braves,
They didn't win a World Series in Kansas.
Braves,
Austin, Milwaukee.
Boston, Milwaukee, Atlanta. Who is the one World Series MVP chosen from the losing team?
Bobby Richardson,
Richardson.
I think 60.
60, yeah. When,
Could have lost it without it.
yeah, when Mazeroski hit his home run.
Don't understand why they make you most valuable.
Don't remind me. So that means the MVP was the other second baseman that didn't hit the winning home run. That's weird. What team won 2 World Series titles as a wild card team, but never won their own division?
Marlins,
Marlins.
What 2 teams played the first night game in World Series history?
Baltimore, 1971.
Yes.
That's what I read that article about. I was reading about the.
Oh, yeah.
first night, Game 3 or something.
Baltimore, Pittsburgh, 71. Good. What World Series is the only time the road team played every game in the series?
One we'll never speak of.
Yeah. Yep. That's crazy, huh? Okay, now we'll do the, see if you guys remember where these guys were when they finished their careers. What team did Juan Marichal end up with? Dodgers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. After hitting Roseburg.
Roseburg's personal catcher there.
Yeah. Okay, how about Wade Boggs? Tampa. Gary Carter.
San Francisco.
Yes. Nope.
Northwest.
Nope.
Montreal.
Nope.
Atlanta.
Nope. Dodgers.
They all went to the Dodgers.
They went to the Dodgers. Here's the one I didn't know. Steve Carl.
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I'm not at all playing for Minnesota.
It's terrible.
It was the Twins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 20, Dennis Eckersley. Nope.
Boston.
Nope.
Cubs.
St. Louis. How about Goose Gossett? Where's
Seattle.
Huh? No.
Texas.
Huh?
Rangers.
No.
White Sox.
Nope.
Seattle,
Huh?
Seattle,
Seattle was right.
Yeah, it's coming. Good for him.
Ferguson Jenkins.
Cubs,
No.
yes,
Nope.
No, next.
Nope. Nope.
Boston. I see it coming.
Who?
Boston.
Yes, Red Sox. Good one. Now here's one I didn't. Vladimir Guerrero. Where did he end? Yeah. How do you? I didn't know that.
Where was it? I couldn't hear it.
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Randy Johnson.
Game was off.
No.
No, Yankees.
Arizona. Nope. West Coast.
Oh, he went to San Francisco.
San Francisco.
At least you can,
Phil Negro.
Yankee Shank,
No.
Cleveland.
No.
Come on, stand answer.
You were talking about that team a minute ago. We're square.
Oh, Toronto? Oh,
Toronto Blue Jays, Phil Negro.
wow. Does knuckleball work that far?
Glad you back, Ray.
Yes.
And Joe, this is what I like K-Line and Butte.
Yeah.
Warriors.
Okay, so here's the bonus one. When Joe West was installed as a regular major league umpire in the 78 season, who was the announcer for the Texas Rangers on TV?
Tom Brady.
Tom Grieve.
Who?
Tom Grieve.
Tom Grieve.
Tom Grieve.
He
No,
was still playing.
Miller.
John Miller. John Miller, not too many people remember him as a Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
I gotta say, you were wrong.
Who got the most?
Well, that's two.
There's an incorrect answer there. Fergie
Somebody's got it.
Jenkins was 40 years old when he ended his career with the Cubs in '83.
Been good.
I mean,
I got eight. My guy, head job.
I had 6.
I got six.
I had
Okay.
7.
hey, Mike got 8.
Wants to be wonderful.
I thought we put it black.
That was really awesome.
Took me a few days, I just kept digging and digging, and then when I saw the new pool holes going, I figured out. I looked at a couple of those guys and I go, it's a big.
That was amazing.
Bonus was worth 3, right?
Yeah, Fergie Jenkins ended with the Cubs in '83.
Does it matter? Fergie,
You got the bonus with Miller, yeah.
Fergie Jenkins ended with the Cubs.
Yeah, '83.
Red Sox,
That's the Cubs on since this.
yeah. Then I messed that one up.
It's Cubs. '83.
I just looked at that.
After the Red Sox.
Yes, he went to Texas after Boston.
Yeah.
He ended with the Cubs.
You're in.
So what's the answer?
Correct.
I'm in.
Well, we got double figure and beat my brother, so that's all I cared about.
I didn't know.
Here's Fergie Jenkins. 40 years old.
I'm princess, you want up with an announcement.
Early days. Looked it up wrong somehow. Okay, so. It's still gonna. Okay, good job, thank you. Very nice. Everybody feels talking about the trivia contest. Okay.
Good.
We will call a meeting, we will have a meeting of our new subcommittee on markers, hopefully in a couple of weeks. Find a date when everybody is available to visit for an hour or so, maybe here. We're also gonna have a board meeting in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure when, well, we know when the next meeting is. It'll be the 3rd Monday in November. We're still working on speakers a little bit. We don't have anybody tied down at this minute. We don't know. Right. But we don't know. Thank you. That go back there. Marcia, we got 28 people.
Get somebody.
Guys, yeah. Not a bad number. Considering we're not on our regular. Any other
I
comments?
would suggest get somebody from the world champion Astros for November.
Oh, yes.
We can just show highlights the whole meeting.
I have a suspect.
We can count all the pitches that got missed on the plate.
Front blow preliminary meeting.
It's cold in here. That's cold. Hey, Marcia, then, to be fair, I did not count our guests over.
That's McCroskey says.
And don't forget. Well, to the back of the room from Fred. Thank you, everybody. Hey,